Hello, my friends. And after an official statement that Putin allegedly wants to freeze the war, an official confirmation has now appeared. So, in Belarus, Putin once again spoke at length about wanting negotiations.
Общаются не исходя из того, что одна сторона хочет, а исходя из тех договоренностей принципиального характера, которые были достигнуты в ходе непростых переговоров в Беларуси и в Турции, и исходя из сегодняшних реалий, которые сложились на земле. Мы к этому готовы. А с кем вести переговоры?
So, and of course, he said he doesn't recognize Zelensky legitimacy.
Конечно, мы отдаем себе отчет в том, что легитимность действующего главы государства, она закончилась. Думаю, что одна из целей конференции, которая анонсирована, конференция в Швейцарии, как раз и заключается в том, чтобы западное сообщество, спонсоры сегодняшнего киевского режима подтвердили легитимность действующего главы государства или уже не действующего. Но вот эти пиаровские шаги, они не имеют значения для юридических документов. Нам, конечно, нужно будет, если до этого дойдет, а я исхожу из того, что мирные переговоры должны быть возобновлены, и не с помощью ультиматумов, а с помощью здравого смысла, и основаны должны быть на здравом смысле. Но если до этого дойдет, нам, конечно, нужно понять, с кем нужно и можно иметь дело для выхода на подписание юридических обязывающих документов.
So, this is just part of what he said about the negotiations. So, it's clear that they want to start negotiations, but it's also evident that their conditions are based on the current front line. And this is why they are urgently trying to capture as much territory as possible. And for this purpose, today they started amassing troops not only in the Sumy region, but also in the Chernihiv region. And there is a high likelihood that they will try to advance along the entire border again to create a so-called buffer zone between Ukraine and Russia. And additionally, Lukashenko stated that this year will determine many things.
Этот год многое определит, очень много. Поживем, увидим, мы никуда не торопимся, Россия тем более. У нас позиция единая, мы не прячем ее, будем работать вместе.
So, what exactly will be determined this year, we will find out in the near future, I think. But meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces are conducting a counteroffensive in the Kharkiv region, and this has been officially confirmed by the General Staff. So, the Ukrainian armed forces are advancing in three directions simultaneously, and battles are ongoing near the village of Gliboke and and for the city of Vovchansk, with attacks also being carried out in the vicinity of Staritsa. So success is on the side of the Ukrainian armed forces, as they have managed to push the Russians back from some positions, and the fighting continues. So, however, the Russians are also deploying reserves, of which they still have plenty, and leading to continued engagement. So, over the past day, the Russians have launched 12 assaults, which is significant. So, nonetheless, there have been no new changes along the front line. So, in the Kupiansk direction, intense activity ended quickly, with the Russians suffering additional losses near Sinkivka and Kislivka. So now battles are only occurring near Petropavlivka. So over the past day, there have been no success for the Russians here either, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Svatove direction, so activity remains high with combat engagements near Kolomychiga, also Novoyegorivka and Novovodyane. So, and ongoing attempts to break through, of course, to Druzhelyubivka. So I have, Druzhelyubivka. So, and we are still waiting for the results of this battle. So the Ukrainian forces are doing everything possible to hold the defense. In the Crimea direction. So there are battles in the areas of Nevsky and Terne. And after a long lull, fighting has resumed in the forest near Crimea. So, however, the activity is not very high, with only a few assaults per day, and no changes have been recorded so far. In the Siversk area, so the battles for Bilohorivka continue, and in the Spirne area, so the occupiers keep trying to expand their controlled territory. However, there have been no changes along the front line here for a long time. So in the Chasiv Yar direction, fighting continues around the city, and additionally, the Russians persist in their attempts to push the Ukrainian forces out of Klishchiivka. So over the past day, there have been more than 10 assaults in this direction, but the capture of Andriivka by the Russians hasn't been confirmed as before. In the Pokrovsk direction, so the occupiers conducted 14 assaults, showing a slight decrease in activity. However, attacks continue in the areas of Kalinove and Novoalexandrivka. So the occupiers are also shelling the village of Vozdvizhenka to dismantle all Ukrainian positions on the road to the important Pokrovsk-Konstantinivka highway. So there are ongoing battles also for Novoselivka Persha, with periodic assaults on the village of Sokil and in the area of Yasnobrodivka. So, however, there have been no changes along the front line in the past day. In the Kurakhova direction, so the Russians reported that they managed to raise their flag in the center of Krasnohorivka. So this indicates that the gray zone has expanded by at least 400 meters. So, however, we are still waiting for official statements. In the Vuhledar direction, so there is a complete lull today, and at the time of creating this video, no new attacks have been recorded and the shelling is minimal. However, there are unofficial reports claiming that the Russians have broken through to the center of the village of Staromayorsk, but we're still waiting for official information on this. In the Zaporizhia direction, so there are attempts to advance towards Novodanilivka continue. So the Russians aim to reach this village to strengthen the front line, thereby nullifying all the gains made by the Ukrainian forces during their counteroffensive. So, in the Kherson direction, it appears that the Ukrainian forces have managed to expand their bridgehead, and breaking through further inland is very difficult, which is why the expansion occurred along the river bank. So, this is significant because it now increases the possibility of covertly moving troops to the left bank. So, with an 8-kilometer wide bridgehead, it will be harder for the Russian forces to control. Therefore, there is a high likelihood of further expanding the bridgehead, potentially deeper into the left bank. And we are waiting to see how events unfold in this direction, but it seems that the bridgehead is being prepared for the arrival of F-16s, and once all Russian bases and depots are destroyed, a new counteroffensive might begin here. So, meanwhile, The United States is providing Ukraine with a new military aid worth $275 million. So, the package includes high mobility artillery rocket systems, 155mm and 105mm artillery shells, Javelin anti-tank systems, AT-4 anti-tank mines, TOW missiles, tactical vehicles, small arms, and ammunition. So Secretary Blinken assures that the new tranche will be sent promptly and noted that previously allocated supplies have already reached the front lines. And earlier, Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin stated that Ukraine is facing a challenging moment due to the attack on Kharkiv and promised continued weekly arms supplies. And additionally, there are calls to lift restrictions on using American weapons on Russian territory. So it's time for allies to consider whether they should lift some of the restrictions they have placed on the use of weapons provided to Ukraine. While we will not engage directly from NATO territory in combat actions on Ukrainian soil, it's particularly challenging now, with intense fighting near Kharkiv close to the border, for Ukraine to defend itself without being able to use these weapons against legitimate military targets on Russian territory. So overall, I think we are waiting positive decisions on this matter. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Of course, thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.